I was looking forward to last night's game just because I wanted to see what the Browns could do with their backs against the wall and so many guys injured. The Broncos, after starting 3-0 against a trio of cupcakes, had fallen to 3-3. Could they pull it together? There was a lot of swagger, a lot of confidence from Von Miller articulated by him during the week, and I thought it was humorous. We got a kick out of it. I'm going to kill whoever lines up across from me. It was great. But at the same time, when it was time to play, you saw that the Browns were the team that was better prepared, more eager, more desperate. You know, they're feeling it, Peter. I mean, even at 4-3, they're a disappointment. And they needed that one last night. And I sensed that from everything they did. Even though it was a close game, I sensed that the Browns recognized the time to screw around has ended.
Look, last night I'm watching the game and I look up and there at right tackle is our good friend Blake Hance. You remember Blake Hance, Mike? He's the guy
Blake
who
Hance.
last January, when the Cleveland Browns were desperate for a practice squad offensive lineman around the league, but one who they could get in. Remember, if you sign someone off another team's practice squad and that person has to fly to Cleveland, that person then has to go through the whole COVID protocol and won't be eligible to play for a few days. So what Andrew Berry of the Browns did is he looked at all of the teams within like a 6-hour drive of Cleveland. And he looked at all these teams and he said, who can I get who can get in a car on Saturday, the day before a game against the Pittsburgh Steelers? Who could we get who could just drive here? And the guy who they sort of liked a little bit was on the Jets practice squad, Blake Hance. And so on Saturday morning, they called the Jets, said, we're going to put in a claim for Blake Hance. We're going to bring him in. And Blake Hance was at their team meeting after driving from Florham Park, New Jersey that night. The long and short of it is he becomes a good plugger player for the Cleveland Browns down the stretch. He played in 2 playoff games, played well, and he comes back this year. He's not a practice squatter. He is on the roster. And on Thursday night, he plays the complete game at right tackle. He has to block the aforementioned Von Miller. And so that is what, to me, in my opinion, in the NFL, I've been thinking about this more and more. You see this huge spate of injuries. So what do, Mike? You beef up your middle class and you concentrate on the 38th, 45th, 49th man on your roster because if you're Andrew Berry, at some point, Dearness Johnson, your 4th running back, is going to have to play. How is he going to respond? Blake Hance is going to have to play. And Andrew Berry, at least for one night, built a roster that responded to the problems that the Cleveland Browns are having. They beat what is now appearing to be a lousy Denver team, or at least an equally beat-up Denver team. But again, no one asks you after the season. So, back in Week 7, when you won that game against Denver, were they pretty beat up? Nobody cares. You won the game, and that's what they needed to do. This was a survivor game for the Browns. And the one other thing it was, Mike, it told everyone that we can win a game with Case Keenum. And in my opinion, if I'm Kevin Stefanski, I am holding out Baker Mayfield until that shoulder has been repaired and that broken bone in there is fused together. There is no sense in getting him hit again and getting him knocked out for the rest of the year.
We'll get into all of that in sequence, and let's go back to Dearness Johnson, a guy who has had a very creative path to where he now is. From the Alliance of American Football, was with the Browns last year, had a 95-yard game against the Dallas Cowboys, but his first start in the NFL came last night. And there's his direct message that he sent to each of the AAF teams in 2019. Hi, my name is Dearness Johnson. I'm former running back for the University of South Florida. After finishing college, I attended training camp with the Saints, where I've since been a free agent. I'm very interested in becoming a part of the Alliance League and would love the chance to send in my highlight videos for you all to view. Well, if he were doing that again, he would have a new set of highlight videos, Peter, because he was phenomenal last night with 146 rushing yards on 22 attempts and a touchdown. And the blocking was great, but this kid has great vision. There were numerous times where he shifted and slipped his way into daylight, where I don't quite think that he was going for the hole that was supposed to be there, so he found a different one. And, it proves yet again, and I don't want to demean the running back position. I praise it because there are so many guys out there with the skills, and they are rare skills, but there are plenty of guys who have them, which allows teams to go 3-4 deep. And when Nick Chubb is out with a calf injury and when Kareem Hunt is out with a calf injury, you've got Dearness Johnson. Let's hear from Coach Kevin Stefanski and Dearness Johnson on the big night that he had in his first NFL start.
Dearness Johnson, to me, is just a warrior, great teammate. What he's fought through in his career, and then to go have a night like that and to end it how he did on that third down, I thought was just outstanding.
They just basically told me just be me, man. Don't change nothing. Just be you. Continue doing you. That's what got me here, and don't change nothing,
So what did the first touchdown and first 100-yard game in the NFL feel like?
Unexplainable. I can't even lie to you. I wanted to celebrate, but I didn't know what to do, man. I just yelled because it's been a long journey, man, and just to get your first start and get 100 yards and get a touchdown, man, that ain't nothing but God, man. And I give thanks to him.
Dearness Johnson sealed the game not once but twice with third down runs. 3rd and 2, he had a convincing run where he sat down around the 5 and didn't score to ice the clock. And then there was a penalty, an illegal shift. David Njoku went forward before the snap, so it was 3rd and 7. He had to do it again, and he did it again. So twice on third down, he got it done for the Cleveland Browns to put the game away. And, hey, if Chubb and Hunt are going to be out for a while, they're going to be fine with this kid. He was phenomenal last night, Peter.
Hey, look, you know what I kept thinking about last night, Mike? I kept thinking back to Saquon Barkley being the 2nd pick in the draft. And, and I know, and we've talked about it, that in today's football, in modern football, unless you're Jim Brown, and maybe even if you're Jim Brown, you shouldn't be picked with the 2nd pick in the draft. The game is different these days. So I looked up last night, and I looked back at the draft I will always remember about this is the 2017 draft. Okay, remember, a rookie that year, Kareem Hunt. If not for his problems, who knows what he would have been and what he still might be. But he wins the rushing title as a rookie. 86th overall pick in the draft. Alvin Kamara, 67th overall pick in the draft. Aaron Jones, 182nd pick in the draft. And the bottom line is there is depth at running back. It's, to me, fruitless to take a running back. So many examples that you see now. I wouldn't call them wastes. I would just call it way over picking running backs. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, 32nd, when 2 incredible defensive pieces, Antoine Winfield Jr. And Trevon Diggs, are both on the board for the Kansas City Chiefs. And boy, what would they give to have that draft back right now? So, and it's silly to think of that at a time like this, but I just think, what is the smart way to build your roster? And the smart way to build your roster, in my opinion, is not to use one of the highest draft picks in recent history that you've had on a running back.
Well, and what happened last night underscores that point. For anyone out there that is yet to come over to our side on this, a guy who was sending direct messages via Twitter to every account of each of the Alliance of American Football teams asking for consideration is good enough to rush for 146 yards in the National Football League. That just shows you that they are out there, and you don't have to go first-round pick. You don't have to go top 10 pick. You mentioned the 2017 draft, Peter, that year, and plenty of teams get criticized for passing on Patrick Mahomes and Deshaun Watson. That year, the Jaguars took Leonard Fournette with the 4th pick, and the Panthers took Christian McCaffrey with the 8th pick. Now, McCaffrey looked like a winner for the first 4 years, but he's been injured each of the last 2 seasons, and that's not his fault. That's part of the position. You have to factor that in if you're going to use that high pick on a running back. There's a good chance this guy's going to get hurt. And you don't know where the next Emmitt Smith is going to be, who can suit up and play no matter what body part is hanging off of him, and he otherwise should not be playing, but he still finds a way to play. You don't know who has that superhuman ability to avoid injury or play through it. Most humans on the planet don't. So it's a huge risk. And I know that Dave Gettleman was asked at one point, I think during training camp, if he had regrets, if he'd do it over again. Of course, he's not going to say, I really did screw that up. We all know it at this point. He really did screw that up in 2018, taking a running back with the second overall pick. He hasn't gotten the return. He hasn't gotten close to the return, not because Saquon Barkley isn't good, but because he's been injured too much, because that goes with the territory of the position that he plays.
Yeah, and Mike, it's not Saquon Barkley's fault. He's not the one who picked himself second overall. But the fact is, and you look at running backs, and the majority of running backs are going to get either an injury or a major injury early on in their career. Look, so many players do that as well. But I just think now we have progressed past the idea that football like in the 50s and 60s, which I think most personnel people in the NFL have done. Not all, obviously. But most personnel people understand that you can get a perfectly fine running back late in the third round these days. And there's enough depth at that position that you absolutely unequivocally need to take players at positions of bigger value before you take a running back.
Hey, when today's Jim Brown, a.k.a. Derrick Henry, was a second-round pick, that's further proof that you don't have to go first round to get yourself a great running back.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.